Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Amateur Radio Roundtable. Today is Tuesday, June the 16th. I'm Tom Medlin, W5KUB, and I'm with our co-host, Ted Randall, WB8PUM tonight. We thank you for joining us. Ted, how you doing tonight, man? Anything interesting happen this week?
A number of things, but I'm curious how you're doing.
Hey, doing pretty good actually. Getting real excited about the show tonight. I think it's going to be a good one. If you like working DXpeditions, this is the one to do it.
Well, we need to find out all about DXpeditions. It looks like you've got the fella that can tell us all about it, ready to come on.
We do. So let's see if we can just go straight on over there. If I can get him in here. Let me introduce to you Richard Hollick, KY6R from Orinda. How do you say that, Rich?
Yeah, it's Orinda.
Orinda, California. And he's going to give us updates and information tonight about the upcoming Heard Island DXpedition in March. Rich is a big DXer himself. He has made 8-band DXCC in just 3 years and is on the DXCC honor roll. He's getting close to having his DXCC on 160 meters, which will give him 9-band DXCC. And he's a member of the Heard Island DXpedition group, handling their news and information. Now, Rich, I'm not a real DXer. I don't chase certificates and stuff like that. So I don't even have DXCC, even though I've been a ham for 50 years, and I've probably worked that many countries, but I've never sent the cards in. So a lot of people do it, though. It looks like you're a pro at it.
Well, I got my first ham license back in New Jersey, WN2QHN, in 1973. And back then I was actually more of an NTS traffic guy doing CW. But, if you live on the East Coast, it was kind of easy to work, European and other DX. So by accident, I worked some DX. And I do have one quick funny story about that. I worked Canal Zone back in the 70s and never even bothered to send for the card, so I didn't really care. But about a year ago, I found the guy who was down there, and he now is retired and lives in Florida, and I got a QSL card more than 30 years, almost 40 years after the QSO, because Canal Zone it's a deleted entity, but it was worth something. So yeah, I did honor roll. I started DXing in 2001 and did honor roll in 11 years, which is pretty quick. But I think that Canal Zone 40 Canal Zone QSL card after 40 years might be my record.
Well, I have a card from the Canal Zone in 1964 as a novice. I worked the Panama Canal, and to me that was some great DX. I didn't work a lot of DX when I was a novice.
Yeah, I used to come home after school. I got my license actually on my when I was in 8th grade on my 13th birthday, and it was interesting because we had I had a Hallicrafter HT40 transmitter with a handful of crystals. Well, what happened was, instead of our chat room back then wasn't Facebook, Twitter, other chat rooms. It was 40-meter CW, and a bunch of teenagers up and down the East Coast would get on every afternoon, and we'd have these long CW QSOs. So at one time I was really good at CW.
Wow. Well, hey, what about you, Ted? Are you a CW guy?
I enjoy CW, but I'm not fast. Okay, so, but I'll say this: when I had my novice ticket, gosh, that was like the cool thing was be to hurry home from school and get on the radio, because they're rock bound 75 watts. Didn't matter though, because you could get these cards, and you could put the cards all over the wall, much to my mom's horror. It was like I didn't get the little plastic sleeves, man. I put sticky tape or something on them. I had the walls covered everywhere. And I mean, you could make all kinds of contacts as a novice, and I enjoyed that. But it was slow CW, and I guess today I'd probably still enjoy slow CW.
Well, Ted, if you're like me, I put sticky tape on all my cards, and they're a mess now. They're still sticky today. Oh, man. Well, look, hey, let's get back to this DXpedition. I mean, this is some exciting stuff here. Now, Rich, you're not going down there to the location, right? But
That's right.
you're their support person back here. Tell us a little about that.
Yeah. After earning honor roll, I wanted to do something to give back to these DXpeditions that gave me so much joy and so much entertainment. And I thought, well, what can I do besides just I donate to all the DXpeditions, usually through the NCDXF, the Northern California DX Foundation, but I also give donations to individual DXpeditions. But I thought, what else could I do above and beyond that? And I started volunteering to help with behind the scenes sort of things with the DXpedition, because I learned how much goes on behind the scenes. You'll have Bob on the show again, I'm sure, and he'll love to tell you all the wonderful stories about going. So he's the one to talk about that. I was asked if I wanted to go. I was invited, and I'd probably be a pretty good operator, but it's just not my thing. I like doing project management. I like promoting these things. I'm more like a producer. And let me give you a little list of the things that I've been working on this for the last 3 years, believe it or not. I built the initial radio team, and then the new radio team leader has grown that. Contacted all the sponsors and set up the relations with them. Then I handed that over to the radio team leader so he could run with that and actually, get the equipment. Built the VK0EK website, and I take care of that. Care and feed it every day because it's got a blog with live news as much as live as we can go. Press releases, we do that mostly using blogs and social media. Fundraising, I've been very much involved with fundraising, and our radio team leader, Dave K3EL, was the linchpin on that one, but I've helped him quite a bit. QSL manager, I'll be the QSL manager after the DXpedition is over. That's a huge job. I manage the local team. We'll see a picture of that in a minute, who do the logistics. So the logistics is we're going to be getting pallets and pallets of gear. In fact, I'm getting 10 PCs tomorrow. And what happens is we have to open these up, we have to test them, we have to network them, we have to put the right software on, and then what we have to do is pack them properly and put them in our warehouse, and then move the stuff from the warehouse to a container that's going to go to South Africa. So that's why when you see these behind the scenes pictures, you'll see we have 10, 11 guys behind the scenes doing work and none of us are going. And then finally, I've been working on the antennas and propagation because that's one of my favorite things to do, and I'm on that team. And finally, setting up the South African logistics. So when we send our container from Oakland and it goes to South Africa, it's going to go to Cape Town, and now I've made contact with an agent there who's going to receive it and work with Nigel Jolly, who's running the Braveheart, the ship that we're going to have, and make sure that it gets there and gets on the ship. So that's a sampling of what goes on behind the scenes. So I hope everyone can appreciate all the work that happens way before anyone ever steps on the boat.
Okay, well, I'm really looking forward to this. Let me tell you, we're so excited about having you guys on our show here that we're going to try every a month or two have you guys in here just to give us a quick update on the planning. But the big thing we're going to do is, in working with you, is try to bring in a live feed from Heard Island during our Tuesday night shows while the guys are down there operating. So if we can pull that off, now I know it's going to be by satellite phone. We're not sure about video yet. This is going to be very costly. But if we can't get video and watch the penguins walking around out there, we'll definitely have some still pictures. But we'll try to have a live voice on our webcast from Heard Island. And we'll try to do that. I know they're going to be in there for 21 days operating. We'll try to do that each of the Tuesday nights, as long as you guys can make the trip,
I'm actually quite sure we'll be able to. That there's going to be a big time difference, of course. When you're live, so you might be playing recorded video from a few hours before, but yeah, I think we can make this happen. I'm actually working on trying to get some of the satellite time subsidized by a sponsor. So I'm looking for a sponsor right now to help us, because the more subsidy we could get on that, the more likely we can actually do something really interesting, like having video and more still pictures and all that. But we definitely want to do it. We're going to work hard to make that happen because it will be really interesting, I think.
Well, I know that there's a big time difference, but hey, you guys are going to be operating 24 hours a day, so I expect someone to be up and be on
Yeah.
and be on during the show. You know.
Yeah, and at least 30,000 other people around the world will be too.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
And hey, during the show, we can tell everybody QSY up 5 kilocycles, kilohertz, if you want to make a contact, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. No, I think I think it'll be fascinating because it is one of the most remote places in the world. It hasn't been activated it'll be 19 years that it hadn't been activated come March when it comes on the air. So it's been a long time. That's why right now on our vk0ek.org website, you see this fellow with a beard and smoking a pipe that, if you didn't know it, that's Rip Van Winkle wearing a trucker hat with a VK0EK logo on it. So you might, the listeners and viewers might want to go look at VK0EK, Victor Kilo Zero Echo Kilo.org, O-R-G, and take a look at that. It's a pretty funny picture. We have a wonderful artist on our team, Jeff, K1NSS, and he's really wonderful. He's helped us a lot with our promotion. But we're having a good time. We're having a lot of fun with this.
Well, I talked to Dr. Bob, I guess, at Dayton. He was on the last trip, I guess, down there 19 years ago, and he was explaining to me this is a pretty cruel place to go. I mean, it's near freezing. I've got a picture. Let me throw a picture up here of what this island looks like. There's a picture of this island. You can see it. It's a volcano. I guess you guys might be hoping for it to erupt and get a little bit of heat there. But it looks pretty cold there. I don't see a stick or a twig there to burn, so you're going to have to carry fuel and everything in to sustain life there for 21 days, aren't you?
That's right, absolutely. Luckily, we have a company called Puma Energy who's actually donated the gasoline for generators, and then for the generators, which we might be getting actually loaned to us. I'm quite sure at least half of them, maybe all of them, will have actually them loaned to us. But yeah, we'll have full power and light with generators running 24/7 for the 3 weeks.
Well, I don't think many people understand the complexity of this and the logistics of this. Not until I got involved with you guys, I started looking at more detail. And let me tell you, on that island there, you have to carry everything you need to sustain life there for 3 to 4 weeks. I mean, yep. there's nothing on that island that you can use.
No, and when they went in '97, in '97 they got really, really lucky. They actually, if there's a free book on both of the websites, the vk0ek.org and also heardisland.org, all one word, Heard Island, HEARD island.org, and there is actually a free book that you can download from 1997, and it's a really good read. So you could download it to your Kindle because it's, I think, in PDF format. And if you read the book, you'll find that they wanted to go a year before. They tried to charter a boat in Australia, but unfortunately, the unscrupulous owner of the boat kind of took off, and his boat sank. And he took off with some money. So anyway, that didn't work. So then a year later, Bob took the project over and got really lucky. He found this French, it's a TAAF, the Terre Antarctic. It's the French Antarctic science sort of organization. And what they did was they had this big boat called the Marion Dufresne, a very big boat, like 400 feet long, a very large research vessel, and they had extra available seats. So that team was able to get on that boat for, quote, reasonable. And it's, a lot of these guys going to these places are paying, $15,000 or more to go each, which it's hard to believe, but they're dedicated. So we have some wonderful de-expeditioners going, and they, good operators. They willing to spend the time and money to go, and they, so in '97 they got lucky and got on this big boat. Well, fast forward to now, it's much, much harder and much, much more expensive to go to these places than it used to be. Now, luckily, there's a wonderful shipping company. It's called Stony Brook, actually, but the famous boat is called the Braveheart, and the Braveheart is run by Nigel Jolly and his son Matt, and they've actually been on 11 DXpeditions, including the big, highly successful FT5ZM that went to Amsterdam Island. That's not quite as far south as this. A year ago, a little bit over a year ago, and so that boat now is the boat we're going to take. So it's going to go from Cape Town down to Hurt Island, and we're really, really lucky to have to be on board that ship. And we met Nigel a couple weeks ago when he was visiting at Bob's house, had a nice party, and we're really, really getting into gear now. So it's exciting.
Well, one of the questions in the chat room was how much does a DXpedition like this cost? And you already mentioned that many of the people that go pay about 15. I guess you raise money where you can. You get donations and equipment loaned to you or donated for the event, and then I think you guys make up the difference out of your own pocket. Like you said, many of the people are paying upwards to $15,000 or more out of their own pocket just to go to be in below 30-degree weather, 40-mile-an-hour winds, and live on a volcano for 3 weeks.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, yeah, there's no that's a I like that. There's something in the chat room. Sounds like a great place to send unruly teenagers. Sorry, I thought that was very funny. That's not. It's not for the meek. And yes, the DXpeditioners who go are very, very dedicated. They love doing this. This is their ultra hobby. They're DXers, but they're also DXpeditioners, and they're my heroes. I appreciate all of them that go, and that's why I've assembled a team of 10 people to support them behind the scenes to make sure that everything gets packed and tested. And we have software. We have all kinds of stuff going on. We'll talk about that in a little bit. We have all kinds of things going on that have to be tested, put together, packed properly, get through customs, get on the boat. There's a lot going on, but we do it all for our DXpedition team, who are just this wonderful people, and we that's how we show our appreciation. Of course, the other way is we donate to DXpeditions, and any amount is very, very welcome. We're lucky. We have many people who donate. We have lots of foundations, like the Northern California DX Foundation. A couple weeks ago, we received a check from them, $50,000. So they're our big donor. But we have others that are quite large as well. Many. Indexa, the German DX Foundation, and so many. They're on our site listed under sponsors. But we also love our individual donors. If you can spare $20 or something, shoot it our way. It's on the website on how to donate. But all the DXpeditions need to do this, and yes, it's basically subsidized. The DXpeditioners who are paying that $15,000, that only covers typically about 50% of a DXpedition, and we have to raise the other 50%. So these things are getting expensive because of transportation. They're getting pretty out there.
Well, I didn't mention a minute ago, or maybe I did or didn't. I don't remember, but I think the total cost of this DXpedition is probably going to be somewhere between $400,000 and $500,000, which that's a lot of change for somebody, Hey, here's a picture. This is an artist's picture of the volcano erupting, man, with a beam there coming out of the top of it there.
Yeah, that's a Jeff creation, Jeff Murray. He's our artist, and I love this logo, and I think it really shows Hurt Island there, right in the volcano. I love how he did that with the tower in Yagi. It's great.
Yeah, well, let's talk about where this place is that you guys are going. Here's a map of the world, looking at it from the South Pole. I mean, it is down there.
Yeah, it's about 1,000 miles north of Antarctica. There is one base. I can't remember the name right now. I don't think it was Mirny, but there is a Russian base that's about 1,000 miles south of there. Now, there are 2 other islands that are fairly close. The closest one is called Kerguelen, and that one is roughly, I think it's about 200 kilometers away, so it's under 200 miles away. And then there's another one that's farther away, actually quite a bit farther away. That's the closest. There's nothing else that's very close. But it takes 9 days. It's going to take something like 9 days to go from Cape Town by boat to get there, so it's a long ways away.
Yeah, you said it was about 1,000 miles north. Looking at that map, everything, I mean, no matter where you are down here, you're north of the South Pole, aren't you? I mean,
yeah.
Does a compass even work down here?
Well, I know one thing. One thing I do know is when they're setting up satellite, they have to do something special because they're so far south. So they're going to have to actually get up on a hill. They're probably going to have a little special tent that has the, equipment protected up on a hill somewhere so they could get the right angle of satellite. And we're going to rely on satellite for a number of different things. One is, and you'll show that in a little bit, the DXA software, which we'll talk about, and also, of course, to send video and stills, and also to call and do audio. So
let's look at a couple more pictures here. This is it's a beautiful place down here if you're not freezing.
Yeah. Yeah, we're going to be. They're going to be going at the end of summer. They're going to be going in March. Now, there's something really good about March. We have a wonderful team on our propagation team, and one fellow, Dean Straw, N6BV. He was the editor for the ARRL handbook. He's one of our propagation mentors, and he did quite an analysis. And another fellow, Stu K6TU, did the same thing, and they concluded that going in March and April when we're going would be the best conditions worldwide, and so we're lucky we're going then. We were supposed to go earlier. The middle of summer would be January, but that got moved, and now we're going in March. It's better propagation-wise, but boy, it's at the end of summer, so it could get a little bit dicier weather-wise. But what this is the AAD, the Australian Antarctic Division, went to Heard Island. The last time anyone went, well, any large group went, was in the early 2000s, and they did some scientific research, and they also added a few things that weren't on the island before. These are called tank shelters or yurts, and they're basically big plastic like water tanks that they cut up and turn into little shelters. And this is how they got them onto the island. They actually, float them across the water.
Well, that's kind of cool there. Someone was asking about the fishing. Do they fish down there? There are treaties and whatnot on who can go and fish and whatnot. I know it's a pretty protected place, and I do know that there's like pods of whales that are only found there. And as far as fishing goes, yeah, there are. I do remember reading there are some special fish down there that aren't hardly anywhere else. But probably have to Google that. I don't know the details. I do remember stumbling on something where there were some fish that are not found elsewhere that are down there, I think. Oh, yeah. Now, you guys have got some new tents right here this year.
Yeah, these are really cool. These are called air beams, and the U.S. military uses them, and they're from a company in Solon, Ohio, HDT, and HDT makes all kinds of really high-end, really superb, heavy-duty gear that will weather these sorts of environments. And what's cool about this is you actually use a compressor to blow up these air beams. You can see kind of how one is kind of like in that crescent shape, the roundish. And basically you can set up these tents, which are 20 by 20 feet, and do that in like 10-15 minutes with just a couple people. So we're going to have two of them. You can actually gang two of them together. And what's neat is, my concern was, well, what if one of these air beams blows out? Well, the channels are separated, which means if one of them punctured, because we're going to be putting two of them together, both tents will hold each other up, and if one of them failed, there's no problems. Even if two of them fail, there's no problems. Even if more, one or two beams will hold up the whole tent, and there's at least three major beams on each tent. So they're very well designed for the craziest and harshest environment.
Oh, here's a picture of using some of those pods or whatever you call them.
Yeah, that's the tank shelters, and those those were used by the Australian scientists that went there and did a survey. I can't remember whether it was 2003. It was in the 2000s anyway. It was a while ago. But yeah, that's where they set up. And there are some other pictures we'll see, but that's where they stayed. They all stayed in those things.
Now, in addition to ham radio, this is going to also be a scientific expedition. Dr. Bob was telling me that he thinks that they'll find probably 100 new species down there on this trip.
Yeah, this is actually a lot like so it's similar to what they're finding in Antarctica as as some of these glaciers are melting. They're actually finding life forms that were previously unknown because, of course, they were buried underneath the ice. So they are going to find microorganisms, all kinds of interesting little things, tardigrades, which are water bears, and I can't even remember foraminifera. Anyway, I don't remember my biology too well, but there's a number of microorganisms that they'll find, and I don't know what else they'll find, but it'll be interesting for sure. And I think here's an interesting little tidbit. So in the Oakland Museum here in California, near San Francisco, there's a special display that's for the Cordell Bank. Now, Cordell Bank is off the coast of California, and that was found by the fellow who started Cordell Expeditions, which Bob now runs. And so they have a permanent display of all the different life that they found. And in fact, they found some life there that no one knew about, and it actually has Bob's last name in it, like his name's Schmieder, and some of it's like Schmideri or something, like some scientific name with his last name in it. So yeah, he's a ham radio operator and a de-expeditioner, but he was a physicist for one of the labs here in Northern California for 25 years. So he's a scientist, and he loves to do that as well. So it's pretty cool. It adds a flavor to the de-expedition you don't see on many of the others. I find it fascinating. I like this sort of thing.
Well, there was a question in the chat room about how far north can you make contacts, but let me throw up a map here. Now, this is a map. This is interesting. I don't know if other de-expeditions do this, but this is a map of Heard Island, and you guys are going to set up 2 different radio camps, and explain why you're going to do that.
Yeah, and you can actually, let me just, for anyone who wants to, well, I don't know, I guess, can everyone see that at home?
Yeah.
I guess so. Okay.
Yeah, they can see it.
So in the upper left-hand corner, that's called Atlas Cove. That's the main camp, and that camp services most of the world except for the central U.S. and the West Coast. And also it services Australia, and New Zealand, of course. We need to cover the entire world. So on the upper left hand, you cover, the East Coast, Europe, Japan, and those parts of the world. And then there's a problem though, right in the middle of the island, in the direction that you would want to go towards the U.S. West Coast, Central, or VKZL, which is Australia, New Zealand. Well, there happens to be a 9,000-foot mountain. So we did some modeling. We actually used some sophisticated software, HFTA it's called, by Dean Straw, N6BV. And we found that in 1997, they did not really work much of the West Coast or Central, at least not as much as they could have if they might have set up a second camp where we're going to in the bottom right-hand corner, which is called Spit Bay or Spit Point. And from there, we have a clear shot over saltwater to those areas that were not serviced well in 97. And we feel obligated to do it since, hey, people don't go to Heard Island but every 19 years right now, right? I mean, so we want to give everyone a fair shot. Yes, including Alaska, absolutely. I mean, all points in the world will be able to work us. And here's another good thing. In 1997, when they went, the sunspot cycle, the sunspot number was 0. And the only reason why they made 80,000 QSOs is because it was not a polar path for most of the world. It was mostly a non-polar path. If it were a polar path, forget it. It would have been a disaster. But they made 80,000 QSOs, and that was a record at the time. Now, the good news is the sunspot number by the time that they go this time will be about 44 to 50. So we're talking it'll be 44 to 50 times better as far as sunspot numbers go. But we did a lot of other propagation analysis, and we believe that on quite a few bands we'll be fine to all parts of the world. And we're doing all the analysis and all of the work we can to make sure everybody gets a chance to get Heard Island in the log, since it's so hard to get to and so expensive.
Yeah. Now, when you set those two camps up, I assume you're not going to be able to travel from one camp to the other during this 3 weeks.
No, because it's 20 miles apart, actually, believe it or not. It's not
20,
close.
20 miles apart. You got a 9,000-foot volcano. I guess you might could take a boat if you had a boat. But
well, that's what's going to happen. They're going to use the ship to get over there. But here's the way it'll work. They're going to deploy and set up the main camp at Atlas, on day one. And they'll be there for, several days. And then they're going to send a smaller party over to Spit. We don't have the exact number right now. We're just guesstimating that it'll be 4 people or so. By the way, even all of our scientists who are going are hams as well. So that's the good news. It's a little different than the initial plan. So we're going to have 14 amateur radio operators, and some are going to be doing some science when they're not on the radio. Anyway, so we're going to send about 4 people down to Spit, and of course, weather permitting, and as long as they can deploy, the seas down there are calm enough and all that, of course. Safety's number one. But once they get there, they'll be there for at least a week. We want them to be there at least a week. But we're still kind of looking at, all kinds of different things that we can do, and we'll do the best we can to be there as long as we can to give as many QSOs as we can. We're going to try to beat the old record.
Would you guys have HF communications over that mountain, or maybe you have to use satellite phone, or
Well, yeah, there's 2 things that we'll have. We'll be able to do 40 meters would be fine with an MVIS antenna, so that would be our backup, and then the primary would be to use a satellite phone. Unfortunately, there's we had thought of other things to do, but you just really can't get on the island at any points in the middle there. You'd have to be a mountain climber, actually.
Well, if you're going to be there another week or two, somebody could have carried a repeater up to the top of that mountain right there.
Well, we did talk about that, actually. But I think, some people may know that initially this was a much bigger expedition, and it's got downsized by a boat contract that fell through. So now it's smaller, so we have to, we have to really economize what we do and do the right things at the right time. So it'll be a little bit tighter, but we're still going to do lots of interesting things. We're going to have a couple radio experiments we're going to do for the first time, I think. I'm working on that right now, but I can't really say much until I know it's going to happen. But we're going to do some interesting things. It'll be a lot of fun, besides just giving out, hopefully 100,000 or more QSOs.
Yeah. Now, is this which location is this?
Yeah. Now this is Spit, Spit Bay or Spit Point.
Why they call it Spit? Or is it Split?
because there's this long spit of land that goes out from it. It's thin, and it's also called Elephant Bay or Elephant Point or something too, because it looks like, the elephant's trunk. So it's either spit or elephant something or other. Anyway, it's a spit of land that goes way out, and actually, at high tide, some of it's underwater, and then at low tide, you could see the spit going way out. So that's what that is. Now, what's nice about this site is the one that works for the West Coast, Central, and also for Australia, New Zealand, and of course, the Australians. Heard Island is an Australian possession, so of course we better do right by our VKZL friends, especially since we have Australians and New Zealanders on the team. Anyway, so we want to service those parts of the world as well as the rest of the world, which is going to have absolutely fantastic coverage. No issue there. But what we're going to do is, if you take a look in the upper right-hand corner, there were some verticals that they used when they went on this scientific expedition. We're going to have a Yagi and some rotatable verticals. Yagis from Force 12 and rotatable verticals from Tom N6BT, real good friend of ours, and we're going to have, like I say, the Yagis up on the hill and rotatable 2-element vertical arrays that will point right at the right directions. And if you take a look, all the directions we want to serve slope downhill, and then you hit salt water, which you just can't do better than that. That's just going to be wonderful. So we're very excited about activating this second location that no one has ever done before.
So what brand radios are you guys going to be using? A little bit of all, or you got one picked out?
We're going to have Elecraft K3Ss, the new upgraded, new and improved version of the K3, and we're going to have those, and we'll have antennas by N6BT and by Force 12, and components from other companies like DX Engineering, Array Solutions, and Spider Beam, I believe, is going to also be a part of this. So they're a new sponsor, and we have a whole list of sponsors that are going to be offering all of our equipment. And by the way, we have a plan section on VK0EK, and you can even see the diagrams of our equipment that we're going to use. So we actually have that all shared on that website.
I've looked at it. There's a lot of good information on there. Hey, here's a drawing, I guess, of your other location on how you might set it up, I suppose.
That's right. Yeah. So you can sort of see the shadow of the two tents that are 20 by 20 feet. We're going to set those up close to those tank shelters. We're not going to use the tank shelters per se. The tank shelters are there so that if it's an emergency, say they want to set up a tent and a blizzard comes through, you could take shelter in there until the storm passes. So, we're going to set up close to those. It's also a preferred place where they want humans. And, that on the left-hand side, you see tables, and it'll be a kitchen and radio operations and whatnot. And on the right side will be sort of the bunks. And we're not going to need those double-decker bunks. There's going to be 14 cots in there, and and then there's a bathroom, and they're going to try to have a shower there and as well. So should be a nice setup.
So now you guys have to clean up every chewing gum label wrapper and everything, don't you, when you leave here?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Now, when Bob went to Clipperton Island with a TX5K a few years ago, and they left the beach cleaner than when they got there. They actually cleaned up more than even the area they were on. So, you leave no trace. That's the rule.
All right, let's. Here's an interesting thing. Is there enough land to actually drive on out there?
Yeah, this is kind of cool. Now, I don't know if they're going to have this exact model, but the one that we're hoping to get one of these is it's an amphibious. This is an Argo, and they actually will float in the water and allow you to just drive right up on the beach. And then we have big wagons that will be able to pull the gear up the beach. Now, Atlas has a long sloping beach. Luckily, there's a protected cove there, so the Braveheart will be able to anchor in a protected cove, and they'll send Zodiacs over with even one of these ATV type things on it. And whether or not it's an amphibious one or one they got to just put on the sand, we don't know yet. TX5K had one, and they deployed it using a Zodiac, so we know the Braveheart crew knows how to do this, and we're quite excited because they're also going to loan us a bunch of equipment to use as well. So that'll be our power, and then I think it's about 1,000. It's probably about it's a little bit of a ways. It's not quite a quarter of a mile to where they've got to lug all this stuff. But some antennas are going to be closer to the water, the verticals for the low band, and then they're going to go up the hill and be up above the wet and away from when the high tide washes in that area. So that's going to be Atlas. Now Spit's going to be a little different. That's going to be kind of close to the beach, and it's antennas up on the hill, and it's a bit of a different story. That's more of a closer beach landing. But Atlas Cove is like a long, slow incline of this sort of volcanic sand.
Well, I don't think people realize how much equipment you guys have to take on this thing. I mean, it's a massive amount of equipment and weight, and without a dock or something there. It just looks like this could be difficult to get this stuff ashore.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, there's going to be about a 20-foot container worth of gear. Basically, if you can wrap your mind around that, it's about that size, and that has to be unloaded onto the Braveheart, and then that's carried box by box by box. That's why when these DXpeditions go, they take a day or a day and a half to set up. It takes a while. So it's a lot of work, no doubt about it. Now, luckily, we have the Braveheart, who has a crew who have done 11 DXpeditions, and let me tell you, we were looking at some other boats and other captains and teams, and they had no idea what to do with a DXpedition, and so we can only say that we thank the Braveheart crew for basically being our stewards here.
I think I have a picture of part of the team.
Yeah, this is the team that I'm managing, and we have a warehouse in Richmond, California. It's not too far from Oakland, or right across the bay from San Francisco. It's actually near the Rosie the Riveter Museum, and where Kaiser had a shipyard for World War II. They built a whole bunch of ships basically right across the freeway from where we're at. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool as far as the waterfront goes, for sure, as far as history goes. Anyway, this warehouse is real close to there, and we have all of our boxes. That green box, the big military box where we could put a whole bunch of radios or whatever in it. We'll fill those up. We've got like 20 of those. They're really heavy duty. They're airtight, and then we also have Pelican cases. And this is the crew that's going to take all the gear and basically test it, make sure the LAN works, make sure the WAN works, make sure the satellites work, make sure that the computers network to the radios, the antennas work, everything. And then we'll pack it, keep it in the warehouse just long enough for a container to pull up, load up the container, and there she goes. It's bon voyage. And that's what this team does. And we have 10 really hard workers here. And on this day, this was a day where we were cleaning these up and making sure they were spick and span, so we could put fine equipment in them, like 10 Elecraft K3, K3Ss.
On the DXpedition itself, the people on Heard Island, they may need an IT guy if they got networking or computer issues. I mean, I guess you got to be very selective in picking a team. I'm sure you're going to have a doctor in there too, right?
Yes, we will have a doctor. We're talking to one right now where we definitely want a doctor to go along. And yes, IT-wise, we're in very good shape. We have 2 satellite experts who actually did the communications for 2 overwinterings in Antarctica. So they're very, very well versed in both IT and satellite communications. And then we have several of our members who also are like myself, have worked in IT forever. I've worked in IT for 34 years. Was 127th employee at Oracle, so go way back. And a bunch of these other guys actually have done similar things. They've been in IT for a long time, and so we have very good support. And that's important because we're going to be running a software program called DXA that uses satellite technology, so that basically what happens is after you make your QSO, you will see within 1 minute, within 60 seconds, that you're in our log. So this is real time. This is near real time.
I've got that picture up now.
Yeah,
Rich.
there it is. You'll know you're in the log when you make contact with VK0EK. One of those little lights in the bottom right there will show up which band and which mode, and your call is going to appear on a little flag on the map, and then your call will also be in that list that scrolls down. And we had used this. I supported it on Clipperton TX5K, and it was also used in Kure K7C. That's where it made its initial showing, and actually at that time ICOM sponsored it. That was quite amazing. And so anyway, so that's going to help. I'll tell you why that helps. It helps so that people aren't nervous that they made their QSO. If they think they made a QSO but they're not sure and they get all nervous about it, hey, if it doesn't show up on DXA, just work them again. Just go for it. And why is that important? It's because propagation changes. If your opening is only a half an hour, you want to make sure you get in there. Now, on the flip side, if you make your QSO, then you can sit back and stop calling. What does that do? that allows many others to call, and it cuts down on what's called DQRM, which has been a real problem, where in a lot of DXpeditions, if someone doesn't really know if their call was heard or heard correctly, they'll just keep calling, and it just becomes kind of like a traffic jam. It becomes kind of a mess. And then you get people frustrated, and you get cops, and people's, it just gets out of hand. So we use this technology to help us avoid that.
So I hear Dr. Bob told me that there were still a few open positions on the team there. Let me ask Ted if he's listening. He may be working on a transmitter. But Ted, would you be interested in going down there for maybe take 45 days off?
Oh, for those folks that can do that, that's got to be incredible. But I can't imagine being able to take 45 days off. I think my employer and a few other people would have a whole bunch to say about that. But I'll tell you something. I don't know that I would have operating skills good enough to, allow the thing to be competitive. In other words, I'd probably get in the way, the old fuddy-duddy moving too slow or whatever. But
Ted, they'd take you down there just to help move the heavy stuff.
But what I was thinking though is the fact that. With your skill set not being exactly what you think it is, what they should do is sell positions for people to go just to be observers. So they just they sit in the bleachers and watch everybody do this. Of course, I don't know. There's probably not enough room for that, but I would think there's be a lot of people who just love to go into a DXpedition and just observe and watch and see what's going on.
And Ted, last week on our show, we talked about a chef and cooking too. I mean, I would imagine they need a chef on this trip.
Now, how do you guys manage the food? Do you eat the freeze-dried packs of rations and stuff, or do you actually put somebody to work?
Well, before this expedition was going to be a lot bigger, there was a bigger ship, and there were at least 30 people who had already signed up, and there were quite a few who were non-hams. Now it's an amateur radio. It's pretty much an amateur radio DXpedition with a little bit of science, but even the guys who do the science are hams. So luckily, with the Braveheart, they supply the food. So our ship takes care of so many things that we were going to have to take care of. When we did have the bigger expedition that had many non-hams, we actually had a cook. So unfortunately that doesn't work out now, but in its place we're taking the Braveheart. It's a DXpedition now for sure, and the Braveheart provides so many services. It's just amazing. They're just amazing. If you're going to go anywhere really hard in the world, the lesson I learned is contact the Braveheart first. They're fantastic.
Well, Ted, I'm ready to go. I don't know about you, but I think I would enjoy it. As long as the food.
I don't know. I'm more of I guess I want to say I'm more of a homebody. Okay.
Yeah.
I'd rather read about it and see pictures and and go, wow, that is so cool. Because it is. I don't know. I think in that temperature range, I don't know that I'm that dedicated to anything.
Well, I tell you, Ted. If anybody's watched Cy on Duck Dynasty, he's always talking about his Vietnam experiences. Well, I was in the military, and I talk about my survival school that I went to. And I tell you, I think I made it through it, but I don't think I could make it through 21 days down there on this volcanic island.
Yeah, I got to admit, it was so funny because a lot of people have asked me, why aren't you going? Assuming that because I'm working so hard on it that I would go. But, this has to be your dream. There's no doubt about it. And the people that go on these, they absolutely love it. They live for these things. I mean, you'll see people, the guys who went to, K1N Navassa, and a lot of those guys had already gone to, Amsterdam Island, and now a bunch of those guys are going to Palmyra. I mean, that's what these guys live for, and so you have to. This has to be your dream. You know what I'm saying? And I'm a lot like you, Ted. I mean, my dream is actually to help behind the scenes, make sure the systems are running and that everybody can see their QSO on DXA, and I'll work my butt off on this thing. But it's not my dream to go. My dream is to support it, though. And I know people people have valued and thanked me for that, so I get all the strokes that I need that way. But I just have the utmost respect for the men and women who go on these things.
Well, Rich, if you were down there, you wouldn't be able to work Hurt Island. Now,
yeah.
Here's my question. You being an insider, have you got some kind of sure thing here to work them?
Well, yeah, actually, so first of all, DXA is the thing to watch, and actually one thing you can do on DXA is you can see who else is working them, who's showing up in the log, and you'll know whether or not there's somebody close to you who's getting in the log. Now, that sounds a lot like the cluster, but there's a little bit different between, say, a big gun who works them on the cluster and someone who actually shows up in the log. It's sort of, keep your cluster window open, keep your DXA open, and then the other thing to do is you could go to vk0ek.org, and you can go to the plans section, and you can go to the propagation section, and you'll find there's a tool that you could run that's on the K6TU website that allows you to actually run a propagation prediction, so you can start getting an idea of what bands and are going to be open at what time. So those are the things I would recommend. Now, there's one last thing. On hurtisland.org, we have a newsletter, and the newsletter is going to continue this line of how can you get in the log, how can you contact Hurt Island. And on vk0ek.org, I'm running a series called How Can You Get in the Log as well. And one of the things I did recently is, for instance, I didn't have a 17-meter antenna, so I show how to build a 17-meter Moxon beam using Cabela's fishing poles and some wire. And the thing is great. It's wonderful, and it puts me on 17. Why? Because I ran the propagation program and found that, look at that, 17 meters is going to be an important band if you're on the West Coast. And in that newsletter, I'm going to give you have to sign up for the newsletter, but I'm going to give some secrets I'm not even going to put on the website. I know of a super, super special secret opening that very few people know on the West Coast, and it worked for FT5ZM, and I'm going to give that away for free on the newsletter. But you got to sign up for that and give us your email.
I just put a link in the chat room about the newsletter.
Right. Well, actually, if you go there now, the splash page shows, the news page shows that newsletter. So if you just go there, that'll work.
Okay, great.
And that's going to have some of the uber top secret hints, but I gave you the big ones, but there's a lot of little ones too.
Yeah. Hey, here's another picture out in front of the tent.
Yeah, we set the tent up one day, and it went up very quickly, and we looked it over and made sure that we had all kinds of questions like, well, what would happen if one of the beams got punctured by a wayward bird or something, I don't know, whatever, what would happen, and we went through all the what ifs, and basically found out that these things are really something else. I mean, this is the tent I would want to be in if I were going there. It's really cool. And HDT is going to not only donate the tents, but also ship them for us, which is just out of this world fantastic. It's a major donation, and it's basically things we don't have to buy, which is sort of like getting getting a really big donation. It's quite wonderful.
Yeah. And we got another picture, one more picture here. I guess this is some of your logistics, or
storage? That's at the warehouse, and you'll see there's the green containers that will contain radios and all that, and they're airtight. And then you see those blue containers. Guess what? We have to bring water on the island too, so we could drink the water. Now, luckily, if they did have any emergencies, they certainly can go get enough snow, and everybody will know. Everybody will be trained, and if for whatever reason they can't bring water on the island, they'll be able to, purify the water either using a combination of tablets and boiling or whatever. Mm-hmm. So, I think they'll be fine water-wise.
Will the Braveheart be parked out there the whole time?
Yeah, it'll be mostly anchored in Atlas Cove area. That's true, except for the one excursion that it's going to make over to Spit. It'll be pretty much anchored mostly in Atlas because that's the safe cove.
Okay. Well, Ted, you got any questions? I mean, this sounds like an exciting endeavor to me. Boy, I'm going to follow this thing really close.
I think it's extremely interesting. I've learned a lot listening, though, because I've never really paid much attention to the details of a DXpedition, and there's a tremendous amount that seems to go behind the scenes that you don't know anything about. You always just see the guys with the headphones on, making contacts, and the announcement that they're on the air on such a frequency and whatnot. But you don't think about their trip out to the island or wherever the location is. You don't think about their accommodations and how long they're going to be there and what are they going to eat and what are they, where are they going to sleep and what hours are they going to operate.
Hey, and then, you never know when you're going to get bit by a penguin.
There you go.
Right? And it's illegal to hurt those penguins, so you can't slap it back.
Yeah, no penguin fights, no.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and I'll give you a couple interesting stories. So, for instance, I just connected with our agent in South Africa, and we have some fantastic help in South Africa. Paul Johnson and his crew, Pierre, who went to Marion Island. We have number of guys who are helping us out to make this. And they told us something. Here's something that we could have really gotten screwed up. We wouldn't have known. Well, we might have known if we stumbled on it. At the time that we're going to go there, there's going to be this giant cycling event, and it sort of takes over Cape Town. So that means the guys who are going are going to book their hotels like now, and we will have a couple local ham clubs help make sure that when we get to Cape Town, or when the team gets to Cape Town, that everything is good. And I have Nigel Jolly connected with an agent there, so that we'll make sure that when the boat gets there, everything's going to be there, and everyone will have a place to stay until the boat leaves. So, and then on the way back, we have a team, the Northern Corridor group in Australia, because we're going back to Perth, they're going back to Perth. When they end up in Perth at the end of all this, they're going to have this wonderful Northern Corridor Club looking after them as well. So we have our ham radio friends in multiple countries on our team, and it's an international event. But something silly like, hey, here's a cycling event that shuts down all the roads, and all the hotels get booked, right? I mean, that could have been a problem. Now it's not. So these are the funny behind the scene things you have to, I couldn't have even imagined that. I only found out because there's somebody in Cape Town who told me about it.
Now, I would imagine that you have to have a lot of backup plans. One of the expeditions that we talked about on our show a few months ago, their ship didn't show up. I mean,
right.
They had to find a different way to get equipment to where they were going. The ship just disappeared, man.
Well, in 1997, they had booked a ship that basically the guy ran off with the money, and while he was trying to get away, his ship sunk, and he ended up in jail. And I don't think they got any of their money back. And then I have heard of two other expeditions. One going to there's a guy on our team who was in this situation. He was on another team that was supposed to go to Peter 1, and the first year, same thing happened. The ship didn't show up, so they had to go a year later, and they lost money on that. So sometimes these things don't go very well at all. And one of the couple people went to Hurt Island way back when, took a boat. I'm not sure what kind of boat it was. I heard it was not really all that great to go to Hurt Island. Well, their engine didn't work, and they more or less sailed back. It was amazing they even got back. So I mean, this isn't a cruise around the Caribbean, that's for sure.
Yeah, I've had the opportunity to travel to a lot of countries in my job and so forth, and I found that the standards in these countries are not what we are accustomed to in the United States. There's no OSHA. I mean, you take a ship or something, there's no OSHA or anybody to inspect that thing to make sure it's right. You know, a lot of these things, who's going to police it? So, man, you're just dealing with a lot of unknowns when you do something like this.
Well, that's why I really pushed for the Braveheart. I've been pushing for the Braveheart at any chance that I got, and I'm so glad we're taking it, because Nigel Jolly and his son Matt and their crew absolutely keep that ship running. They have two ships. They have a big one, and then this is a smaller ship. I think it's 150 feet long. I'm not sure if I got that right, but anyway, you could look that up. But basically, these guys are pros. They've done DXpeditions, and I'm more than confident. I got to admit, we had looked at these other ships because it was a much bigger expedition. I think Bob was hoping to find something like the Marion Dufresne. There were a couple that looked like they were in the right class. They looked reputable. It wasn't some guy who was going to run off or whatever. It was like in a harbor, looking down on his luck or whatever. I mean, they were all very professional. But what we found is you would talk to them and get a price, and then they would all of a sudden start tacking on these per day charges at the last minute, right when you were going to sign a contract. And I couldn't believe it. You were saying, do you have a plan A and a B? Yeah, you got to have a plan A, B, C, D. Now, you want your plan A to work, but you better be ready if it doesn't. And we do all kinds of contingency planning. But this time we got the ship that I am absolutely just, I couldn't be happier that we're going on the Braveheart. They're just wonderful. I wouldn't, if I ever do volunteer to help another DXpedition, I sure hope they're going to also use the Braveheart, because I don't want to go through what I did with some of these ships. Man.
Well, Lee, NM7X said it may have been a blessing that you weren't on that ship that sunk. You guys could have went down with the ship and all your gear with it.
That's a real good point. Absolutely. They lost some money, but they didn't lose anything else. And they obviously remade the money and went the next year and then did VK0IR, which was a very famous DXpedition, because, at the time, a lot of those guys that went on that expedition were newbies. They weren't, a lot of them weren't real seasoned DXpeditioners, but they've actually become the preeminent DXpeditioners in the world. So that team, that was like an all-star cast, but they didn't know at the time, because they were, a bunch of guys who probably had early retirement, were able to go. I think a lot of them were in their 50s at the time, and they were to become the preeminent DXpedition leaders. And like I say, back then they were kind of, semi-known at the time.
Okay, well, I think we've really covered a lot of good information tonight on Heard Island DXpedition. And we're going to have monthly or bi-monthly reports, and then, of course, we're going to have the real thing, hopefully, during the DXpedition there. Is there anything else that we haven't covered yet that you'd like to talk about?
No, I just encourage everyone to go to both of the sites. And the only last thing I might say is that, and I don't know if DXpeditions clearly tell this. Sometimes you might hear, well, DXpedition needs to get donations earlier rather than later. Well, why? Because the container has to be packed and put on the ship in January, which means we have to receive all the equipment, no later than this fall. Well, now we're getting a lot of our equipment donated, but we still have to buy a lot as well. So, we have to have everything purchased and ready to go by like the fall, even though they're not going until March, because the container is going to leave probably in January, and you got to get everything all staged and tested and set up beforehand then. So that's why when we ask for donations, we ask for them sooner rather than later. That's the last thing. And, you'll see, you'll see on both sites, what you could do, what classes there are. We appreciate any donation we can get, and that's about it.
All right, Ted, what do you think, man? Have you enjoyed tonight as much as I have?
I've enjoyed listening, and I have. I guess I want to say the main thing, like I said before, is I've learned an awful lot, because it's challenged me to think about all the stuff that goes on, with a DXpedition, and it's not a simple thing. Not a simple thing. A lot lot of dedication. And I mean, I don't know. I think if I were someplace like that for, after about the 10th day, personally, okay, I'd be saying, okay, it's time to go. so, I mean, there's a lot of perseverance upon the part of the operators, a lot of dedication, and it's like, it's like you said, this has to be a passion. This has to be a passion and a big desire to go do this, or you'd wind up like me, day 10.
Well, I'm a very passionate DXer. I mean, I love it, but there's a big difference between being people joke with me and say, well, you're an armchair DXer. Well, I am. I'm an armchair DXer. I'm sitting here in my nice armchair and I work these DXpeditions. There's a big difference between that and then actually going, and so, I guess what I like to do is I'm living vicariously through these guys who are going and helping them out as much as they can. Oh, by the way, just one last thing. One thing I found, I've been involved in a couple DXpeditions, but not to the extent of this one. I have not been entrusted with this much, sort of management of the back office stuff. And I got to tell you, I've been building data warehouses for large corporations, Transamerica Leasing, PG&E, now GE. And, I manage a lot of people and I still code and I manage a lot of technology, buy servers, put all this together. And guess what? These skills are exactly what you need to plan a DXpedition. I mean, it's the same kind of thing as far as from both project management and technical. You have to know technically what's going on, and you have to be able to be a good project manager. And I don't think a lot of people quite understand that. Although recently, Glenn W0GJ wrote a wonderful article about Navasa, where and I think it's in the Twin Cities DX Club's newsletter, or might have even, I'm not sure, it might have ended up in a couple other places. But his story was, I loved how he wrote it. He said, mission impossible, mission possible, mission impossible, mission possible. And he walked through all the problems they had that almost prevented that DXpedition from happening. I love those stories because I actually like to know what does it take to plan these things. But, in future shows when Bob's on, you'll get the really exciting stuff, the more glamorous, this is what it's like to be on Herd Island. But I thank you very much for letting me carry on and blab about the back office stuff, because I find it fascinating, but I know a lot of other people might not. I don't know.
Yeah, hey, just one thing I forgot to mention. The photos we showed tonight were taken by Eric Wohler, is that right?
Yeah, Eric Wohler at the time he worked for the Australian Antarctic Division, and so thank you for crediting him. He actually has a book on Herd Island, and he is letting us use the photos for our DXpedition. He was on the team, but since it went from having a lot more science to more of a DXpedition, he's not on the team now. Or I mean, he's on the team, but he's not going now. So, but he's a good sport in letting us use his photos for our just for education.
What about one last question here on the chat room? Any 6-meter activity for you guys, or that's just too much?
We don't have that planned right now. Let me ask the team, and you know what? Actually, if anyone wants to email me personally and ask questions or make suggestions, please do. I'm more than happy to, if you have a good idea, we're kind of an open source DXpedition. We do talk to all of our people, and everyone who wants to work us, and we'll consider all your good thoughts and suggestions. So go ahead, send me email. Let me know what you think.
Okay, great. Rich KY6R, thank you very much for coming to the show tonight and telling us about this. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And like I say, you all want to listen to Bob. He's at Friedrichshafen right now. He's meeting up with some European DXers at that ham convention, and we were at Visalia, and Bob was at Dayton. We did some fundraising and did quite well. And also, Bob is going to be talking to several DXpeditioners who might want to go to Herd Island. So that'll be exciting if he comes back with some exciting news. So we have, like I say, like you said, we we have a couple seats available. One of them we definitely want to be a doctor who's a ham, but that takes a little looking. So, we like a Top Gun de-expeditioner and also a Top Gun de-expeditioner who's a doctor. So we're beating the bushes trying to find one right now.
All right. Great, and hope you find that doctor there. If not, people like me do have the experience. I think I could take an appendix out with a fingernail clippers. They taught us that in the Air Force.
Wow.
Most of my stories are 95% true.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think, Ted?
Well, I don't know. Brain surgery, would that be the next step?
Yeah, I guess. All right. Well, Rich, you're welcome to stick around here as we close the show out. We've got one more little segment here. I wanted to make an announcement or two, and then we're going to go to what is our real roundtable part. That's where anybody out there can join us if they've got a camera and a microphone and a Google Plus account. We're able to bring in 10 people into our video webcast here via their own video. So we'll see if anybody joins us tonight. So thank you again, Rich, and I'll be talking to you over the next few weeks, and we'll plan our next update.
All right, great. Well, thank you very much, and thanks everyone out there for watching and listening. And I'll be watching the rest of the show just on my web browser. But thanks very much, and 73 to everyone.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much. Ted, you got any announcements you want to make? We're at announcement time here.
This is an announcement. No, I was going to say this Saturday at 1 p.m. on 9475, the QSO show will be doing a tribute to Bill Pasternak, WA6ITF. And I thought everybody might want to hear that because it's quite a candid interview with him. And he jokes around and cuts up a bit and everything. And it's just really a good presentation. And that'll be Saturday, 1 o'clock on 9475 on QSO. Of course, you can go to our website and QSORadioshow.com and find out the details. And then we'll repeat that same show Sunday night at 7 p.m. Central Daylight Time, and that's on 5085, the frequency we're on right now. But, of course, we lost Bill, and I think no better way than to put him on the radio to pay tribute to him.
I think that's great. Bill was a good friend of ours. We've known him and had him on our show a lot of times. In fact, he was scheduled and was wanting to be on our show over the last few months. We've rescheduled several times with him being, ill and in the hospital, and of course he didn't make it. But that was one of the next things I have. I have a picture here about Bill. Let me throw this up there. Bill Pasternak, WA6ITF. He's a silent key amateur radio newsline. Of course, everybody knows him. And just quickly, I had a couple things here just to mention about him, and if you tune in to Ted's broadcast this weekend, you'll really get to know Bill. But Bill retired as a broadcast engineer from KTTV Fox 11 television in Los Angeles. After he retired, he continued to be a private broadcaster consultant specializing in the design of video post-production facilities. He was a co-founder and managing editor of the all-volunteer amateur radio newsline bulletin service, and he was a creator administrator of the annual amateur radio newsline Young Ham of the Year award. He was really big into that Young Ham of the Year, and we always like to webcast that from Huntsville. He has made several educational films and videos, including the award-winning Amateur Radio Today. He authored the Looking West column in 73 Amateur Radio Today magazine for 26 years. He wrote monthly articles in VHF and FM and Repeater and in World Radio Magazine, and he was a contributing writer to several broadcast trade publications. He was a member of the ARL, the Radio Club of America, and the Quarter Century Wireless Association. Bill, and just one final point, Bill was the only person that was ever chosen to be the recipient of both the prestigious Dayton Amateur Radio Association awards. That was the Special Achievement Award and the Radio Amateur of the Year. Bill's the only person that has ever won both of those. So that's what we wanted to say about Bill. And Ted will be looking forward to hearing your show Saturday to talk about.
One thing I'll say, and that is, he tells the story of why he does or did Amateur Radio Newsline. He tells the story behind it. It's really quite the thing to listen to. I also talked to Don Wilbanks, and he's been working with Skeeter Nash, and they are attempting to keep the Newsline going and running. And let's just hope and pray they do, and let's give them all the support we can.
Well, I think it'll continue, and hopefully they'll be able to. If they can do half as good a job as Bill did, it'll still be a great news report. So let me just mention to our viewers and listeners out there, we'd love to hear from you. If you have ideas or topics for the show and you want to come on a show, please email us. Email Ted or me, and we would love to have you on here. So Ted, this is going to pretty much end the official organized webcast here, especially for our shortwave listeners. It's time now for our informal roundtable. This is where we're going to let people actually join in the show with us with a microphone and a camera. Sometimes it gets noisy. Sometimes it's a little hectic in here, but after a few minutes it settles down. We can have a maximum of 10 people in there at a time. And if you don't get in, just keep trying. You'll need a Google Plus account. Click on the link we just set out in the chat room, and hopefully we'll see you in there.
Well, I'm going to say good night and 73s.
All right.
And that little note that, I say 73s, okay?
and hey, just real quick, a lot of people say it's not 73s, it's 73. I personally can go either way with it. It doesn't bother me like it does some people. But hey, tell us the quick story about the 73s. The
well, I just discovered, looking at some things that a friend of mine had emailed me, that Hiram Percy Maxim, okay, the old man, signed a number of things 73s, not 73. He signed them 73. So I remember reading the old articles, and down at the bottom he would always have 73s. Yeah,
sure.
And if it's good enough for Hiram Percy Maxim, then I think it's good enough for me. I mean, and it makes it plural. So there's more than just one 73 coming your way. There's many 73s coming your way.
Yeah, our best regarded, right?
There you go.
Yeah, okay. Ted, thanks for being with us again tonight, man. You make the show.
At Christmas time, we don't say season's greeting. We say season's greetings, like a number of them. So I'm gone. 73s.
Right. 73s to you, Ted. Thanks for being with us tonight. Okay, guys, don't go away, everybody, because we're gonna be back on here in just a minute with the roundtable partner hangout. I'm gonna put a little music on here while I try to log in. So I'll be back in just a few minutes. Thanks everybody for watching tonight. The show, I think it was a really cool show about Heard Island DXpedition. Thank you, and maybe we'll see you in a hangout in a few minutes.
Put on my blue suede shoes and I boarded the plane. Touchdown in the land of the Delta Blues, in the middle of the pouring rain. W.C. Handy, won't you look down over me? Yeah, I got a first class ticket, but I'm as blue as a boy can be. Then I'm walking in Memphis, I was walking with my feet 10 feet off a beam. Walking in Memphis, but do I really feel the way I feel? Saw the ghost of Elvis on Union Avenue, followed him up to the gates of Graceland, and I watched him walk right through. Now security, they did not see him, they just hovered around his tomb. But there's a pretty little thing waiting for the king down in the jungle room. When I was walking in Memphis, I was walking with my feet 10 feet off a beam, walking be glad to see you when you haven't got a prayer.
Okay, well, I'm in Hangout. I don't see anybody in Hangout, so maybe no one wanted to join tonight. Let's see if Bruce is in there. I don't know if he's in there or not. He's usually in there. All right, so if the link is the correct link, no one joined us tonight in Hangout. So I'll show you what it would look like. Well, let's see. All right, so I'm going to get out of this Hangout. I know Hangout I'm going to try. Stand by. We're gonna crash another Hangout, guys. We're gonna crash somebody else's Hangout, or I'm going to try to. Okay, we got some action here. Here we go. Okay, guys, can you hear me?
We hear you. Do you hear us?
All right, listen, hey, don't say anything bad. You're on the webcast right now.
Aw, man.
That's okay. That's okay.
Why can't I say bad words?
That's okay. Can't use any bad words. Hey, guys, we've got, look at this. We've got Richard on. Richard is in, where's he at? New Zealand?
New Zealand.
We got Richard on in New Zealand, driving in the mountains in New Zealand. This is live. Richard, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. I'll just pull over somewhere so I don't cut out on you. You can keep an eye on the view for me.
All right, Richard, we're hearing you. You're on our webcast. You're on our Tuesday night webcast. You're driving on the wrong side of the road.
Yeah, that's true.
He always is.
Yep.
All right, so you're always on the wrong side of the road. Now, folks, Richard repairs radio systems, towers, and systems in the mountains in New Zealand. And the last few days, I've seen him in a helicopter going up to these sites. And if you look, I think I can see snow in the top of the mountains there. Where are you headed, Richard?
Well, at the moment, I'm in a little area called Glenorchy. In the South Island of New Zealand, and I apologise if I cut out when I go around this corner, but I just got to find. I know here's a place I can pull over.
Yeah, I don't know if we'll lose you or not. We've got a pretty good picture. The autofocus is going on and off a little bit, but nice. It's beautiful scenery there. So, are you?
Pull over to this.
Oh, you're stopping?
Yeah, he's got to pull over because.
Oh, we lost him. We lost Richard.
No, we.
Oh, there he is. There he is. Richard.
Yeah, no, I thought I'd stop moving so it doesn't cut out on you.
Okay. Well, hey, we went over our Hangout on a show. Nobody was there, and this is cool. I'm glad I got you, man. That is beautiful, guys. This is. Let me see if I can adjust this camera a little bit. You're not seeing the whole picture. This is, I can try to do it here, Richard. I've got the camera, let's see. See if I can, I don't know if you guys can see this or not, but this is in New Zealand. You're seeing the snow-capped mountains there. It looks like a lake. You had a better picture a minute ago. It looks like some pixels right now. It's coming and going, you know. But hey, it's looking good. So are you on the way to a
I might
job?
move forward a bit more and see if I can get into the sector.
Yeah, are you going to the job, or are you just returning from a job?
I'm just returning from a job. I've stopped my video temporarily just because
Okay.
the bandwidth is a bit limited there. But yes, I'm just on my way from visiting a site down in the far south, or the South Island of New Zealand, and giving some people some better service in their area. But it's a beautiful day down here. But we do have a cold front coming up, so I've just managed to beat the rain.
All right, so it's winter time. It's winter time there now, right?
Yeah, we've just got into the start of it. In fact, usually these mountains that I was showing before are more covered in snow, so we've actually had a bit of a late start to winter here. But I think we're just about to kick into it as of next week. So.